This continues in the context of the public proclamation of the word, and this is for any that would want to answer. How do we think about and address politics with our people? What's the balance of making sure that we don't put hope in earthly powers, and also we don't want to distract from the gospel of Jesus Christ, but we want to help our people think about living in the world in which they live?
And they all with one accord began to make excuse. The King James Version does come in handy. Especially in the current political season, which is so extraordinarily atypical. It's hard to be wise. It's hard to be silent. It's hard not to be self-righteous. I'll tell you what is helpful, though. When you see corruptions and stupidities and barbarism in the highest places. Listen, I come from Illinois. We tend to jail our governors after they step down. It's the extraordinary one who manages to retire without going to jail. Then some historical perspective is really helpful. Paul, when he writes Romans 13, the powers that be are ordained of God. He had Nero. You know? You have to realize that empires rise and fall and God still remains sovereign, and so you have to emphasize integrity and righteousness and humility of mind. You have to remember the places in the prophets where one of the signs of judgment on a nation is that that God sends buffoons into high places. We begin to attract the rulers we deserve.
Come on now, come on.
That was my first point. No, Alistair's going to give the second point. In other words, there's some really big biblical themes that you can deal with and historical parallels from the first century and second century and so on, so that it's a time to I don't know if I would recommend seeing it, but the PBS series I, Claudius gives you an exposure to what the Caesar family was like during the first century. And it's pretty ghastly. It's pretty historically accurate, too. And whatever corruptions we have in Washington or Springfield, Illinois, or whatever, well, I'm sure they're worse than we think. I'm also sure they're not nearly as bad as the Caesars. And Christians had to face that in the first century, too, and keep a certain kind of perspective. And you know, the old Negro spiritual, this world is not my home, I'm just a passing through, begins to ring now for the entire nation.